Hello, good evening. My name is Eleanor Clapham and today is video 2 of the series, 6-week series of 6 weeks towards a pain-free, drug-free birth. And I'm just going to sit down right now because I'm 34 weeks pregnant. Not that I'm not very strong and healthy, but I think I just like to have a seat. It's 8 o'clock at night. I haven't had dinner yet and I'd really just like to watch some TV. But I forced myself to make this video tonight, and I'm going to do it every single night up until the birth because I really think this is important. I really want to get to share the joy that I have discovered in the last couple of months, and I really want to share my birthing experience. So without further ado, let's go straight into it. Yesterday I spoke about why I believe that I can enter into a birth without pain and without fear. And today I'm going to talk all about the effect of fear on the body, not just in birth but in life in general. Before I get into that, I want to make it clear that the method that I will be using is hypnobirthing. And it's something that I believe passionately about. In Australia here, you've also got another method called calm birth, which is quite similar to the idea of hypnobirthing. I really recommend this book that I've read over and over again, Hypnobirthing: The Mongan Method by Mary M. Mongan. Mary F. Mongan. I'm not getting paid to endorse this or anything. I really think everyone should just go out there and read it. So, how the body is affected by fear. First of all, I'd like to talk about a couple of stories about the effect of fear on the body that I think that anybody could agree with. The first story is the concept of Aboriginal culture, when in this culture, if for some sort of punishment you have the bone pointed at you, this is basically a death sentence. And this does not mean that anybody is actually going to physically kill you, but in their culture they believe so intensely that this means that they're going to die, that basically they just go off and die without killing themselves or anything. Basically their heart will just stop. And I'd like to tell another story about, so that's a phenomenon that I think is amazing. The story that I heard Bob Proctor tell, you may know Bob Proctor from The Secret, and he told this story about a man that got trapped in an ice cream truck, and that's really hard to say. And so what happened was that he got trapped in the back of the van, and he was terrified and thought that he was going to freeze to death. And so after trying to get himself out for some period of time, he decided that he was going to write down his dying thoughts, so at least there would be some sort of memory of him. And as time went on, you can see that he actually did die and he froze to death. But the last words that he wrote were, "It's getting colder now, colder still. I don't think I have much time." Now, when they found him a few hours later, it was clear that that his body had gone through an experience of freezing. But the amazing thing was that the van, the freezer in the van was in fact faulty and hadn't been working the entire time that he was in there. So when he first got trapped in there, it was cold, but it was actually warming up during the time that he was in there. But because he was unaware of this, his mind was so convinced that he was going to freeze to death that he actually did. Now, I think that is amazing, but it's not so surprising. And then so that's the negative effect that fear can have on your body. Many people can tell lots of different stories about, for instance, like cancer patients who have been told, by a doctor that they have a very short amount of time to live. And then time and time again, you hear stories about people who have completely cured themselves of cancer. And when they're asked how they did it, they really attribute most of their healing to the power of their mind and the belief that this is not the end of my life. And, lastly, everybody knows of the placebo effect. That, now in medical research, the placebo effect is always used as part of the research that, say for instance they're researching a new drug, then a group of people will be given the drug, a group of people will be given a placebo pill, and a group of people will be given nothing. And they do this to see whether the drug is what's working, or whether it's the belief that it's going to work that actually helps people to get the benefits of it. So nobody can argue that the mind does not have an effect on the body. But most people, I would say, will accept the negative effects that it can have on your body, but are very skeptical that it could have any positive effects on your body. So anyway, I was in the hospital on a checkup a couple of months ago, and something struck me that the doctor said to me, and she said, well, be realistic, you can't will your cervix to open. And this was a real assumption from a doctor, that this is just common sense. And I didn't say anything at the time, but I thought to myself, well, I know that I can't just, click my fingers and tell my cervix to open, but can I, through the power of my mind, actually have an effect on the opening of my cervix? And so I've done a lot of reading about the effect that the mind can have during birth. And I'd like to quickly, before I do that, I'm going to tell one more story about the animal kingdom. That a veterinarian will testify that an elephant who is in labour, if their labour is progressing and then all of a sudden that there is some sort of danger that arises, say for instance some lions or something come, are apparently around, then the elephant's labour will actually cease. And even to a point where if the labour was advanced, that the cervix can actually close up completely, and contractions can stop for a number of weeks until the elephant believes that it is in a private and safe place to give birth to its child. And this is a medical fact, and I'm not just talking about elephants, and I didn't mean to compare myself to an elephant, although I kind of feel a little bit like one at the moment. This applies to all animals, all mammals. I'm really having trouble speaking tonight. I think that I really need to go and watch some TV. So anyway, how does this affect humans in our birth? And I'd like to read a quote from the Hypnobirthing book. And it says, the negative effect of fear on labour can be traced to the function of the body's autonomic nervous system, or the ANS. The ANS is the communicative network within our bodies. Its main function is to interpret messages it receives, determined by what action should be taken as a result of the message, and then immediately communicate the directive to the other systems of the body. So that sort of makes sense, that you get a message in your brain and then it sends a message to your body. When a mother approaches labour with unresolved fear and stress, her body is already on a defensive, and the stressor hormones, catechloramine, is triggered. The body is sent into the fight, flight or freeze response. And it is believed that catechloramine is secreted in large amounts prior to and during labour. When circumstances are such that neither the fight or flight are appropriate, in this case of labour, the body naturally chooses the third option, freeze. And since the uterus has never been designated as part of the defence mechanism of the body, blood is directed away from it to other parts of the body. So just basically to recap on that is the idea of if you need to fight, you need your blood in your arms and legs as opposed to a new uterus. This causes arteries going into to the uterus to tense and restrict, restricting the flow of blood and oxygen. Labour and birthing nurses and midwives have told me of seeing uteruses of frightened birthing women that are white from lack of blood, just like a person who is experiencing extreme fright, often as the blood has drained from his face. So it's pretty clear to me that fear, the effect of fear, can have a detrimental effect, and does have a detrimental effect on most women's labour. And the funny thing about it is that most women are afraid of fear. And why is this? Afraid of fear, afraid of labour. And why is this? Well, first of all, is that women love to tell their scary stories to each other about how horrible their labour was. And sometimes a lot of women won't let the truth even get in the way of a good story. And I'm not saying that women don't have painful and horrific experiences during labour, because I'm sure that they do. And I'm sure it is because they've come into it from a place of fear. The last thing I want to talk about before I finish this video is that I believe that there is a huge mentality of, it's a general belief that it's a matter of fact that labour is painful and should be feared, as something to be afraid of.